In light of the fact that we do have the State of the City address at 11:30 today, we're going to go ahead and again get started and move on with that. So roll call.
Commission Member Brown?
Just, Brett, I got a call from Dr. Brown. He's running a little bit late. He's in traffic, but he will be here.
Okay, great. Fuller?
Present.
Gapel?
Present.
Greer?
Present.
Harris?
Present.
Vice Chair Smith?
Here.
Chairman Vieira?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. Cindy, would you mind?
Place your right hand over your heart and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our invocation today is with Pastor John Metters from Christian Life Assembly.
Let's pray. Lord Jesus, we thank you that we can be here today. Thank you for this new year. Pray your blessing upon this city and your protection over our law enforcement men and women. Father, I pray that you would be with this meeting. Give the commissioners wisdom. We thank you. Amen.
Presentations. I had spoken with Dr. Brown a little bit earlier, and he had made a request that this presentation be moved to a little bit later when he is here. So to honor that, I think we'll go ahead and move on. Public business from the floor, agendized items. Brett, did we have?
This is the time for citizens who would like to address the Criminal Justice Commission on any agendized item. Please complete a speaker card and identify the agenda item you would like to discuss. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. Lyle Talbot.
Good morning. By way of background, I've been a volunteer in the Sheriff's Department, law enforcement, for 15 years out of the past 25. My father was in law enforcement in Iowa, as well as my grandfather. And I've seen a crime committed in this town, or heard of it, read about it in the paper. A mayor assaults a citizen in a public place. The citizen files a report with the Sheriff's Department, and no action is taken on behalf of the citizen who filed the complaint. And I think this is a place to report it, and I want to bring it to your attention in case it escapes your attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Consent calendar, approval of the minutes. I trust commissioners had a chance to take a look at that. Any questions, comments with regards to that? Seeing none, call for Dennis.
I move that we approve the minutes of the December 8th Criminal Justice Commission meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Commission staff presentations, updates, and reports. Monthly crime stats. Mr. Jim Cobalt.
Thank you, Commissioner Vieira. This report will be for the time period running from November 28, 2010 to January 1st of 2010. This covers actually 5 weeks instead of the normal 4. If you recall, last meeting we only looked at 3 weeks instead of 4 weeks. So this picks up that extra week. For total Part 1 crimes, we can see the upper range was in week 51, the excuse me, the week before Christmas week. From 12/12 to 12/18, we had 83 Part 1 crimes. That was our upper range. That gets to the point of we need to start looking at that pretty closely. 83 is getting towards the upper end of the range that we're fairly comfortable with. And the lower part of the range was the following week, Christmas week, where we had 54 reported Part 1 crimes. The arrests, we didn't tabulate this reporting period because the part-time person we had off or that normally does it for us was off for the time period. So she'll be back today, and we'll be back on that for next month. The range of reported or issued report numbers ran from week 49, 622 report numbers issued, to week 52, again Christmas week, where we only had 421 reports issued. The most active reporting districts over this time period was 1126, or the most active RD was 1126 with 43 reported Part 1 crimes, 1127 with 39, 1137 with 33, 1132 with 32, 1135 with 29, and 1121 with 27. Again, the excuse me, the three districts that were usually interested in 1125, or excuse me, 1135, 1137, 1121 are all on this list. When we look at residence burglaries for this reporting period, we can see that 1132 led the way with 13 residential burglaries, 1131 and 1133 tied with 7, 1121 had 6, and 1126, 27, and 1192 all had 5. Take a look at these reporting districts just for a second so you can get an idea how crime laid out in those areas. This was the most active reporting district, which was 1126. We're running from Avenue J down to Avenue M, from 10th Street West over to 20th Street West. You can see the corridor of crime extending down basically larcenies, burglaries, and stolen vehicles extending down the west side of Interstate 14, and then the larcenies in the area of 10th Street West and Avenue K. 1127 was the second most active district, and again, as you look at 1127, you can see a lot of the larceny activity along Valley Central Way. We also had, when I was looking at the vehicle larcenies, we also had an area over here excuse me, between 40th Street West and 45th Street West, or even going on over to 50th Street West, that had a number of larcenies from auto in it. And the thing that was interesting about the larcenies from auto were that they occurred overnight, and as we'll go over when we talk about the larcenies from auto, it appears that most of the vehicles that were hit were unlocked. And so it was basically, it appears to be somebody just going through the neighborhood checking the cars parked in the driveways. So 1137, you can see the activity along 30th Street East over between J and down to about K, a little further south, and then some of the area over here between 20th Street East and Challenger Way, south of Avenue J. .1132 is pretty much spread out throughout the reporting district. That runs from Challenger Way over to Sierra Highway, Avenue I down to Avenue J. .1135 was primarily centered along Avenue I and within a block or two of Avenue I, and Avenue J and within a block or two of Avenue J. .1121, again, we have the 10th Street West, Avenue I area popping up, and we also have some of the area between 10th Street West and Sierra Highway. As we look at larcenies involving vehicles, 1127 led the way with 13, 1126 had 11, 1124 and 1192 had 4 each. The vehicles that were most often hit during this reporting period appear to be Dodges, Fords, followed by Toyotas and Chevrolets, and then we start getting down into almost the single digits of the vehicle makes. When we take a look at the point of entry again, we can't express enough that people need to lock their cars. As we look at this up here, we can see that 21 of the 53 cases that we looked at, people they admittedly did not lock their cars. And then we have the unknowns for point of entry and forced use. And again, you get that when the deputy goes out there and the person says, I know I locked my car, but there's no signs of any kind of forced entry into the vehicle or anything else to substantiate that the vehicle was forcibly broken into. So when you combine those numbers, that's 70% of the larcenies involving vehicles. The other thing that we take a look at is property taken. They're after the small electronics, or at least were this time, the iPods, the attachments for cell phones, and those kinds of things. The other thing that was really striking in this report is also that residential driveways are not necessarily safe when it comes to vehicle larcenies. You can see 27 of our 53 occurred in somebody's driveway, followed by apartment complexes were the second, but the residential driveways, when you combine the fact that you've got a residential driveway and you've got people who don't lock their cars, that's an open invitation for somebody to come just check your vehicle out and see. I mean, you know, the sad part about it was when you looked at some of these, some people actually lost their family's Christmas presents because they didn't lock their cars. If you take a look at the maps that I've given you, you can see the first map that I will highlight for you is the frequency by reporting district that has your crime classifications on it, and that shows basically the layout of crime. Obviously, when you're looking at 5 weeks worth of data, it starts to kind of lump on top of each other. That's one of the reasons why we do the density by reporting district also. And you can see the legend for the density by reporting district in the lower left-hand corner, and you can see the reporting districts that ran high, medium, and low for Part 1 crimes. The next map is the spatial trend analysis, and what this does again is it looks at this reporting period and says where did we go up or where did we go down relative to the last reporting period. And you can see where hitting high in some of those weeks for Part 1 crimes really had an impact as you look at the spatial trend analysis. And then finally, the last map is the forecast for January, where it looks like things are headed right now based upon the available data. The last thing to look at is the number of cases that we've processed in the Antelope Valley Community Youth Court. As we wrap up 2011, we we received 102 referrals from the Sheriff's Department. We have one case that's still pending from those 102. 4 cases are in process right now. 23 are in post-court proceedings. 33 have been sent back to the Sheriff's Department because they weren't appropriate for a first-time diversion program, or we couldn't get in contact with any of the people that were that were responsible for the juvenile. We had 4 sent back either by the court or during the supervision period, and we have 3 cases that have completed supervision to this point. It's important to understand that we didn't really start this program until October, so that was 102 cases that were sent over in those 3 months. Any questions?
The only question I have that's related to some of this, when we look back and we got 27, what was it, residential driveway. I mean, those numbers there, is there any thought given to venues that we can use to educate maybe some of the residents around that, if that's what the numbers are, what can we do along those lines? I mean,
well, one of the things in looking at the reports that you know, you don't like to question somebody who's reporting something on something like this, but you know, they say they hit their button on their key and they heard the thing beep. Well, maybe a follow-up to that is to go up and just check the car door to make sure it actually locked. Because, just verifying that the car door locked physically or manually as opposed to just walking away from it and assuming because you hear that beep that it's locked. It may not be the beep of your car. It may be somebody else's car. Maybe somebody else is hitting their button at the same time. I don't know what the case is, but clearly we have a significant number of people that don't lock their car, or they think they lock their car, but there's no signs of any forced entry into the car. And so
I think another venue for us is through our neighborhood groups, our Yahoo groups, getting that information out, just like we've done as far as it relates to businesses, issues in parking lots, to get that back out to our folks and take on another campaign of reemphasizing these issues. I think, part of the issues, and as we talk about with our reduction in crime and the things that have been significant, comes a certain amount of complacency, okay? And we got to make sure that people are vigilant and they pay attention to, the things that we've been talking about for several years now as it relates to impacting crime, and that they practice that daily. And that's, part of what Jim's talking about. Part of that can be through the captain and his directed patrol efforts of the patrol units, knowing that this information and what's taking place in the neighborhoods. And then for us as a public safety office to reemphasize this continually out there and talk about these issues so that our folks can be, look out for each other, who's in these neighborhoods. I mean, I would imagine certain hours of the thing, there's certain patterns of it. Jim and I went through some of this yesterday and talked about a pattern of a guy that you could actually see through the migration of the crimes, that we had one person that was actively working an area. We bring that information forward to the sheriff's department in the hours that it's occurring, and then they can impact that. So it's several things we should be doing as it relates to this.
But the other point to this is, though, it's very difficult for the sheriff's department to defend somebody who parks their car in their driveway. At some point in time, we've got to help the citizens understand that their vehicles, while overall they're safe, they're not safe sometimes from people walking down the street just checking to see if they're unlocked.
Well, I think that's the realization, is that when you look at those stats, and that's the highest thing, and probably one of the simplest to avoid, if they know that cars are being targeted at this rate, be aware and simply ensure that your car is locked, and then in turn give deputies more time to do other types of things as well.
Also, Dave, I understand what you're saying, and certainly we'd like everybody to be able to leave their car in the driveway and never have a problem, but most of the homes have a garage, and the best place to put it is in the garage. When you look at 70% of those vehicle larcenies are either unlocked or unknown. There's probably a fair number of those unknown that were unlocked. In the garage is always best. And maybe besides the Yahoo, also all the neighborhood watches the city's been able to organize. Those people would be a great place to distribute and disseminate information to them, letting them know that 70% of these vehicle larcenies are happening at their home, not at the grocery store, but in the residential driveway. And a lot of those people could put it in the garage. So maybe through Neighborhood Watch program as well. Because it shouldn't be incumbent upon, LA County Sheriff personnel to go out and physically talk to people door to door and remind them there's a key fob and there's a lock button for a reason. People should understand that on their own, but maybe a reminder through Neighborhood Watch certainly wouldn't hurt.
I think sometimes there's a false sense of security because you're on your property, and that's not necessarily the case. Other comments, questions? Thank you, Mr. Cobalt. Arrest stats, Sergeant Kroger.
Good morning. Okay, we're going to go quickly over the last 2-week period of December, and then we're just going to take a look at our 2010 totals. The last 2 weeks of December were actually a little low. We were at 46 arrests for Part 1 activity. Our increase there was in larcenies. We had a number of larceny arrests for those last 2 weeks, which we were really focusing upon through the holidays. We were focusing upon those larceny arrests, down 3 arrests from the previous 2 weeks. Now our Part 2 was down significantly from the previous 2 weeks. We're down 145 arrests from the 2 weeks prior to that. We had a number of special operations that had gone on the previous 2 weeks, which had increased that number. So this number that we had at 461 was pretty consistent with where we usually are. It was just that prior 2 weeks it really jumped up and caused us to drop a little bit here. Our station comparison to the other stations, we were pretty consistent again, beating most of the other stations in the county. Palmdale was slightly above us for Part 1 arrest, and I believe Century was ahead of us for Part 2 arrest. Not too bad though. Our bar graphs for the year, we go all the way across. Everything was pretty consistent. As you can see, the red bar representing the current year and the green the previous year, pretty consistent where we have been, where we were last year for each of the months. Everything was fairly close for both Part 1 and Part 2 crimes. Numbers may be a little small for you. One of our focuses for 2010 was approaching our crime problem as a valley-wide problem and increasing our partnership with Palmdale Station. And a lot of our strategies have been to work in conjunction with Palmdale Station and approach that crime problem as a valley-wide problem. And a number of our special operations have been focused upon attacking the crime problem in both cities. So we thought it'd be interesting to look at the arrests for both cities for the year of 2010. Interestingly, we came up with the same number of Part 1 arrests for both stations, 1,527 each Part 1 crime arrest. Part 2 arrest, we were slightly different than Palmdale. Some of that's attributed to just some differences in the way we count some things. Overall, 3,054 Part 1 crime arrests for 2010, 20,068 Part 2 arrests for a grand total of 23,122 arrests for 2010 between the two stations, which I believe are some pretty impressive numbers. I broke that down just a little bit further. That comes out to about an average of 63 a day, or 2.6 arrests per hour. So our guys at both stations have been extremely active, and I think these numbers reflect that. So does anybody have any questions?
As far as our 300 crime rate, where did we come in at that number?
What was the final number, sir?
It was, I think, 298 point.
Right.
Yeah.
We did make the 300. It was just below.
Great.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. The California Highway Patrol update. Captain Hoos.
Thank you. Good morning. Captain Hoos is unfortunately not able to be here. He had another engagement, so he's asked me to step in and share some of the statistics with you today. Actually, traffic safety, we're looking really good in the area. I know we talked about it last month, a decrease. We're continuing to see that decline. Our fatal accidents, unfortunately, last month, as compared to the month of the previous year, we were up 150%. We went from 2 fatalities to 5 last month. It was a bad month for us. But overall, year to date, our fatalities are down just under 38%. So that's still a decrease and a decline that we hope to see continue on. Connection with that, our persons killed year to date in traffic accidents was down 42% year to date. So we're still seeing a decrease in that. Injury accidents were down 8.5%. Property damage accidents were down 3%, and DWI or DUI PCF accidents were down 23%. So we're seeing that decline, which is good news for the area. I know Captain Hoos talked about it last month. We do have our DUI corridor grant. As you know, there were only 2 grants given throughout the state for DUI corridor, and SR 14 was one of the areas that was distinguished as a grant recipient of those funds. So we are starting that this year. It will continue on through the end of September of this year, and you'll see increased enforcement out on the 14th to combat DUI driving. And hopefully we'll have an impact on that. We do have a task force that will be meeting, I believe, on the 27th of this month, the DUI task force. We invited many members of the community to participate in that, which will have that and kick off that task force starting off on the 27th. So you'll see increased enforcement on the 14th for DUI. So that's something that we're looking forward to happening in the community.
Questions, comments? Thank you very much. Next, we have District Attorney update, which I believe is new to the Commission, and welcome to hear this from Stephen Franklin, Deputy District Attorney.
Thank you. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Stephen Franklin. I'm the head deputy of the Antelope Valley District Attorney's Office. I'm here with my assistant executive officer, May Chung, and May has a great resume. She was in gangs for quite a while in our hardcore division, and that's very useful to me because one of the priorities I have of being up here is in fact making sure that gang members who come up here are aggressively prosecuted when they come up here and visit their friends and so forth and end up here causing trouble. So I was up here a couple times before, once when Bob Foltz, if you remember him, was the head deputy, and worked for him for about 9 months, and then most recently when Dan Damon was up here. Then I was promoted to sent downtown, and then I'm back up here. So May's been in the office over 15 years, and I've been in the office about 27 years. As I indicated, May is extremely good at prosecuting gang cases. She's very, very tough. And I've been virtually all through the county, and as well as in the Army Reserve. I've prosecuted cases and was activated prosecuting the terrorists that we have at Guantanamo Bay. So you've got 2 experienced DAs who are dedicated, and we've set up a mission statement for the troops that we have in our office. And they're buying into it, and I'm very excited for the community here. but we're here to seek justice and to ensure that the citizenry of the Antelope Valley is safe and secure, and we're doing all we can to ensure that. So I do want to thank you for inviting us. This is a team effort, as I keep telling our young deputies, that we work as a team to seek justice and to make sure that we do all we can to keep the citizens of this county safe. What I did do is run last year's, or actually May ran them for me, just to give you an idea. Now, obviously, we handle all of Antelope Valley, so it's not compartmentalized to just Lancaster. But to give you an idea, the numbers that we're dealing with for misdemeanors that were filed last year, filed complaints, we filed 11,378. The only county, the only city that had more would be Compton at 12,000. So we have a lot of misdemeanors. A lot of that was just reflected by Mr. Cobalt on the petty thefts. When you're going inside a vehicle and the vehicle's not locked, you're not necessarily going to have a burglary of a vehicle. The vehicle needs to be locked. But so we're going to get a lot of misdemeanor. We do get a lot of misdemeanor cases up here. And obviously we get a lot of felonies as well. Again, for the year 2010, we had a total of 3,943 complaints filed, so almost 4,000. We are in branch and area region 1 is how the district attorney, there's another region also, which encompasses some of the South Bay, et cetera. But as far as region 1, when you look at Antelope Valley, San Fernando, Van Nuys, et cetera, we have the most felonies filed. So consequently, we try the most cases as well, which we have good cooperation with the sheriffs, with Lieutenant Downton, getting our officers in to testify. Last year we did 22 misdemeanor jury trials and almost 120 felony jury trials. And of course, some of those felony jury trials can take sometimes up to months to try, depending on the complexity of the case. So we're very busy. We do appreciate this proactive approach. I wish all the cities that I've worked at do something similar to this. And as I indicated, I'm very proud of the DAs that we have right now that we're working with, May and I. They're very aggressive, they're very anxious, and they're very talented, and probably most importantly, very, very enthusiastic. So always feel free to contact me if need be. Lieutenant Downton knows that. Mr. DeRico knows that. And we'll work out whatever issue needs to be worked out. So we're very open, very available. And with that, is any questions from?
No, but again, a welcome to you and Ms. Chung, and look forward to hearing from you again and working with you. Thank you for your time today.
I have a couple questions for him. We have 24,000 arrests. You did 11,000 and some change misdemeanors and almost 4,000. What happened to the rest?
They're going to be reviewed. I didn't go over the cases that were declined. Obviously, the mere fact that there's a report taken and an arrest made doesn't mean that it's a case that we're going to file. As far as misdemeanors go, we will have rejected, I'm sure, well over 1,000, which we did. We want when we look to file a case, we want to make sure that it will, we can prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury. So we looked very carefully, as I think most people know, to make sure that we can, in fact, prosecute the case to an effect where we can get a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt. So they're reviewed. Oftentimes they're sent back for further investigation. Look, you do X, Y, and Z, and then we might have a filing. And the same goes true for the felony. We declined we declined, looks like almost 1,500. So they're carefully reviewed, and then a determination is made as if it can be proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
Let's say two people got into a shoving match. One said one thing, one said the other thing. Would it be declined?
It would depend. Depend on the history of both individuals. Is there a rap sheet? Is there a criminal history? Is there something as far as credibility as to one or the other? Is there any independent witnesses? If there's no independent witnesses and it's a straight one-on-one, he said, no, versus what the other person said, and there's virtually no corroboration, more than likely it would not be filed.
Thank you.
Hey, Steve, just to add to what you were talking about, as I'm looking at the numbers, what's not reflected is the cases that have gone over to juvenile court too. So the totality of numbers that we're looking at, those include the juvenile cases, so that these numbers that you're giving wouldn't include the numbers that we refer to juvenile court.
That's correct, yeah.
Other questions, comments? Okay, thank you. Report on Neighborhood Impact Program, Commissioner Harris.
Good morning. We're going to start off the new year, Neighborhood Impact is, by cleaning the Mariposa area for the Martin Luther King Day of Service. So we've got about 400 or 500 volunteers that we have lined up. The Mariposa area is between 10th Street West and Sierra Highway, between Avenue I and Avenue H. So this is at the request of the city, so we are happy to do that. We do have a neighborhood house in the area, and so we're excited to see what it is that we can do. We're still actively involved with the neighborhood homes and trying to keep the kids out of trouble in each of the 5 neighborhoods where we are currently. And one of the things that we've done recently is take the kids to Laker games and Duck games. So that was a lot of fun for them. The other thing that we have going on this weekend at the wellness homes, we partnered up with Antelope Valley Partners for Health. We have a doctor on our team. And so the thought was to have a wellness home in each one of the communities where we serve. So the first clinic actually has just opened up recently. It is on 10th Street West in Lancaster. And this weekend, on the 15th and 16th, they already have 900 appointments scheduled. So that's the other thing that we're doing for the community. And we're working on starting a sports league for the kids. That's going to be the development of the next project that we're going to be doing for this year.
Thank you very much. Huge positive impact on the community here. 6 and 7, I think we'll go ahead and combine Mr. Dorico with the Business Watch Subcommittee update and Public Safety update.
I have already last week contacted the other businesses we desired to go meet with and look at their programs and their loss prevention programs. We just need to pick the dates. They're ready. They're willing to meet with us. They're curious about what our findings have been at other places, and we just need to schedule a time. So maybe after the meeting we can get together and decide some dates we want to pick out, and I'll contact them. As far as the public safety update, we got a lot of things going on. Megan provided you a calendar there of all the events we have scheduled for this month. One of noteworthy significance is we're going to have based on our 4 core areas, we're having an area meeting at Lancaster High School on the 24th in the theater. Dr. Vieira has arranged that for us there, and that's where we're going to be going out to all our neighborhood watch groups, our block captains, our zone coordinators, and our area coordinator, and with the deputies, and talking about issues that we have from the crime analyst unit for the Sheriff's Department, as well as from Mr. Cobalt and all our neighborhood watch issues and plans for the year. We're going to incorporate introduction with our CERT curriculum and different things that we're going to present at that meeting in an area basis. Also, we have also had our first meeting of what Lieutenant Doughton talked about before the end of the year, about some reorganization, re-emphasis back into some of our task force teams. We had that meeting the first week of this month, and we met with the representatives from the different teams and talked about our strategies for the year in different areas and how they want to do that. And the deputies had some pretty significant things that they've identified out there that correlates directly to what we're seeing statistically, and as we need to bring other agencies into the fold as it pertains to the issues, we will do that and invite them to that structuring. And then just ongoing, Marlene and Megan and all the public safety staff with Jim and his folks with the Youth Community Court is just constantly expanding. I don't think Marlene and Megan have gone a week for several months now where they haven't had at least 2 meetings a week with new groups and getting people on board. So we're moving the right direction. I think we're excited about this year. I think we're at a point now with our crime rate and things that we can really focus. The captain we had a great meeting with Crime Trends meeting at the station. The Captain Anderson is, even though he's announced his direction, he is on task to the end of the day, and emphasize that with his staff. And so we're looking forward to really positive things and keep just moving forward here.
Great. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, Dr. Brown isn't here at this time, but I think what we'll go ahead and do at this point is to invite up Sergeant Alan Harris on the anti-gang operations presentation from LA County Sheriff's Department.
Hi, Alan Harris. I'm a sergeant with the Sheriff's Department working Operation Safe Streets Bureau. That's the department's gang investigation and gang enforcement teams. A little bit about our crime rate concerning gang members, gang-related crimes in the Antelope Valley, specifically to Lancaster. 2009, our homicides were at 4. 2010, unfortunately, it went to 5. It was a 25% increase, but the numbers are still low. Comparative to the other stations and areas that we've seen that our arrest stats and crime stats are compared to. Our robberies have gone up 9% from 2009 to 2010. 9%, that's only an increase of 2, from 23 to 25 gang-related robberies. Our aggravated assaults have had a real positive. We've had a real positive effect with the cooperation from everybody in law enforcement and the district attorney's office. And I'm going to go back to 2008, showing 123 gang-related aggravated assaults. 2009, there was 76. It was a significant 52% decrease. And in 2010, we showed 59, another decrease of an additional 22%. Our assaults with firearms climbed slightly, 33%, from 18 in 2009 to 24 in 2010. The gang teams are doing everything we can to decrease that, and in 2011, we'll recognize that's going to be a target goal for us to try to slow down, potentially stop. Over the course of last year, we're continuing the change in our target efforts on violent crimes and violent gangs and gang members. Instead of going after only the potential suspects or the identified suspects in violent crimes, we're going after the whole gang. We're targeting everybody in that gang. In 2009, mid-2009, the first operation that was conducted by OSS was the Lankas operation. That took almost 16 months to finish that investigation. It was a joint investigation with federal investigators as well. And that was very successful. Lankas, since the culmination of that investigation in July of 2009, has literally done nothing. No crimes reported. They're getting arrested for drunk in public, driving without a driver's license, driving on a suspended license, and stuff like that. So they're still out there on the street. They're still being contacted, but the gang guys are keeping them in check, as well as patrol and all the special units as well. In September 2009, we went on to a second targeted gang, and this was based on their activity in a specific area in Lancaster, and also another clique of that gang in the city of Palmdale. Pasadena Denver Lane Bloods were targeted because of their outward and constant sales of narcotics. With the sales of narcotics in the communities, it brings thefts, fights, shootings for in an attempt to control drug trade. The narcotics users are out committing burglaries and thefts to support their habits. And over the course of 1 year, almost to the day, PDL was basically shut down within both cities. The operation included DEA, ICE, U.S. Attorney's Office, in cooperation with the District Attorney's Office, working side by side with us. Several units from both Lancaster and Palmdale stations. Operation Safe Streets Bureau took the lead on it and brought in Cops Bureau for additional resources, an additional narcotics team with experienced surveillance experience, and so on. Over the course of that investigation, which ended September 2010, there was 96 felony arrests, 6 misdemeanor arrests. There were a total of 53 parole and probation searches conducted in the Antelope Valley, with an additional, I think it was 120 or 130 additional down in Altadena's area, which we worked collectively with because Pasadena comes from their area, and along with Pasadena PD we were working with. The operation in the Antelope Valley recovered 19 firearms, and it culminated with 25 federal indictments and 10 state charges on the upper echelon, basically the leaders of the Pasadena Denver Lane Bloods within the Antelope Valley area. Additional filings were made on the 96 total felony arrests, with very few district attorney rejects for or non-filings, and a lot of these guys, in defense of the district attorney's office and what Mr. Dorico was saying, they're taking, because deputies are doing a good job writing good reports, doing good investigations. A lot of our suspects are pleading out. They're not taking it to trial because we've done our homework and we've got everything in line. Since September, when the PDL operation went down, and the PDL members are still being monitored from that to make sure there isn't any increase in crime committed by them. The next gang that was targeted for a 90-day investigation, well, actually an investigation no matter how long it took, but it only took 90 days, based on Ballers on Point. It's an offshoot of Bloods on Point, and detectives, OSS detectives from Lancaster and Palmdale combined their efforts, put their cases together, and joined forces with the station crews, and went out and investigated several crimes, including murder, 2 murder investigations with the assistance of homicide, where 4 suspects were taken into custody on those. Additional attempt murder cases where these Bloods on Point and Ballers on Point were involved in. And it culminated with a total of 15 arrests, 17 search warrants were served, and 17 firearms were recovered. And that was just in a, 60-day period, October through November. We're looking at additional gangs to target, and they will be, in my opinion, as effective as we have been in the past. And our learning curve is increasing, and is giving us additional tools and knowledge to continue our investigations in this manner. Just between these two investigations, between Ballers on Point and PDL, these were just targeted investigations alone, where a couple of investigators are used as lead investigators on a case, joint efforts with our local and federal allies, and we're going to get some pretty good hard sentences on our suspects arrested. But in the last year, on these two investigations only, it's a total of 117 arrests, 45 search warrants, well over 60 parole and probation searches, and 36 firearms recovered from 2 gangs. Our total Operation Safe Streets Bureau, we've got 3 teams up here. Total searches in the Antelope Valley, and not investigations, but search warrants served, parole and probation locations checked. We conducted 472 in 2010. So I think our efforts are being effective, helping the stations lower the crime rate, helping the community, and we're going to continue our efforts in any means possible and help the community as much as we can. Any questions?
One question. You had talked about Lancaster and Ballers on Point. What was the other one? Pasadena, Lane?
Yeah, Pasadena, Denver, Lane.
Besides those 3, how many other, substantial or existing gang entities like this have you identified, and not just in Lancaster, but in the entire Antelope Valley area?
Actively going out committing gang crimes, there may be upwards of a dozen. Not all of them are committing violent crimes. They're into narcotics trade, distribution and sales. Some of them are committing robberies. Some of them are just in property crimes with burglaries and thefts from vehicles and stores and businesses in the area. Just because our efforts are, as I explained here, with the targeted gangs, the rest of the station teams and the Operation Safe Streets Bureau investigators, they're out actively on the street looking at the other gangs, monitoring, taking gang members to jail outside of the targeted gangs, and to keep those guys from increasing their activity as well. So our efforts are widely distributed throughout the Antelope Valley, in the extreme east and west ends of the county areas as well. And I think we're holding on, we're keeping up with them, and our efforts are going to continue to stay on top of them.
Your comment that some of those other gangs aren't currently really involved in maybe murders, but to me anyway, it would suggest that anybody that's in the line of work of dealing drugs or doing armed robberies or burglarizing homes, all of those kind of situations probably ultimately lend itself to those enterprises ending up with murders.
That's correct.
So on.
Yeah, and that's why the investigators are out on the streets. Our gang enforcement team are out on the street looking, seeking out the gang members that are out there committing crimes. They're out there just hanging out, drinking in their front yards. They're getting taken to jail if at all possible. They're being cited if we can't take them to jail, and we're We're on our efforts are directed for a zero tolerance for anything they do. Over the last couple of weeks, I think our gang enforcement team alone, with 8 deputies and a sergeant, have taken almost 50 people to jail. I don't have the specific numbers, but I would say about 25 to 30% of those are felony arrests, and a large majority is for misdemeanor warrants. So we're not letting these guys slide. They're not being allowed to congregate in an area and not get checked by our gang enforcement and our OSS investigators. And if they give us any opportunity whatsoever to take them to jail, that's what we're doing.
Thank you for all the great work.
I got a quick question. How many actually gang members are identified out here in Antelope Valley? Do you have an approximation?
I think the last time I ran that, which was at the end of 2009, there was somewhere in the area of 2,700 identified gang members in Lancaster, and real close to that, 2,600 or 2,700 in the city of Palmdale. Now, there's that's with a residential nexus up here. So if a gang member down in the LA Basin is contacted by police, arrested, a field identification card written out on him, and he provides an address, a residential address of up here in the Antelope Valley, then that's included in those numbers. If an individual is contacted up here in the Antelope Valley and he provides a residential address down there, that's not necessarily counted as a member. So as close as we could figure, about 2,700 in each of the cities, and that's complete station jurisdiction actually.
And of that, do you know or have an idea of what percentage of those would be juveniles?
I do not.
Just for the record, on parole, we have about 700 to 800 that are listed as gang members that are actually on parole in the Antelope Valley.
Over the course of your work the last couple of years, are you seeing the number of gang members increase, decrease, status quo? Do you have a feel for that?
Yeah, I've been out here for about 5 years now as an OSS sergeant, and over the last 5 years, it has increased slightly and then topped off. So we're at a plateau right now where there hasn't been a significant increase in numbers. And I hope that's because of the efforts that the captains are putting forth for the crime fighting initiative and everything else in the Antelope Valley here. We've heard previous suspects or gang members talk about leaving, going back down below where they grew up because it's too hot up here. Every time they're out on the street, they get stopped and they get checked, or they get put in jail, and their wishes are to stay away from police contact. So they kind of stay away. But it's not increased to the point where it's a concern to us. It's just kind of brought up, and I'm sure that's because of the current economic times and previously the affordable housing and stuff up here, and then it's kind of plateaued. So,
if I can just kind of dovetail on what Sergeant Harris is talking about, what we found out here in the Antelope Valley, I think that's really encouraging where the gang situation is concerned, is that our efforts and our aggressive enforcement when it comes to gang members has kind of rendered them unable to establish the deep roots that they have down in the basin, such as East Los Angeles and South Los Angeles, places like that. So I think really, although it's a battle that we're going to be fighting for years to come, they really are not as well established. They don't hold down neighborhoods. They aren't allowed to congregate, and they really have not been able to, from that generational perspective, establish this presence that they do down in the basin. And this is really good news, because I think that gives us the hope that as we work with intervention and prevention programs, and certainly aggressive law enforcement, it gives us every hope that in the future we can actually eliminate them or render them harmless. And that's really what we're aiming at. It's a huge team effort, and it's been effective, and I think it really has slowed them down from establishing themselves like they have in other areas.
To have over 5,000 in the Antelope Valley, is that considered good or bad, or compared to other cities?
That's probably real good in our favor for the Antelope Valley, with the population of the Antelope Valley. I think we're looking pretty good.
Okay. One other question: how many are you FIing per month?
That would be, I would say, a couple of hundred. I know our gang enforcement deputies alone, working PM shift, they write between 50 and 75 a week. And that's not new field identification cards all the time. That would be, maybe they're contacting the same gang members over and over again. Different places with different friends or associates with different gang members. That allows us to keep track of where they've been, who they're hanging out with, what they're wearing, what they're driving, and stuff like that. So it's probably up over 200, maybe 250, an average of a month. And that's just with our gang enforcement team alone.
That's great.
Any other questions for Sergeant Harris regarding gang operations? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Public business from the floor, non-agendized items.
We request any person who would like to address the Criminal Justice Commission on non-agendized matters to complete a speaker card. You will find speaker cards on the back table of the council chambers. Additionally, we request that you fill the cards out completely and print as clearly as possible, so that if necessary, the commission or city staff will be able to contact you either by phone or mail. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each. When you approach the podium, please notice there are 3 lights. The green light comes on when you begin, the yellow light will come on when you have 30 seconds remaining, and the red light will come on when your 3 minutes are up. We ask that you be considerate of the allotted time to allow other speakers to have their 3 minutes as well. Georgia Young.
Good morning. My name is Georgia Young, and first I'd like to establish some of my credentials. Second, I'm going to establish the civil rights violations being committed by the City of Lancaster and the County of Los Angeles. Third, I'm going to present some solutions to the problem. And fourth, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do about it if I don't get some action forthwith. First, I've provided the County of Los Angeles with the transportation code necessary to provide all your trains, buses, and sidewalks. That would be Governmental Code 1400C. Second, I've given this city quotes to fix all the education issues, not only for the city, the county, and the state as well. Third, I've given all the quotes necessary to provide all the low-income housing necessary to assist other people in providing adequate housing. My dilemma here is that the City of Lancaster is denying the medical marijuana ordinance, for which they promised to pass and have not done so. And upon questioning last month in regards to this issue, they are claiming under a welfare safety code, which they did not provide, that this is not legal. The problem here is we do have a state law under Proposition 215 that allows the use of medical marijuana. The city and the county both are in cahoots together, and they are in violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act, Title I. They are performing discrimination against disabled people. They are under professional negligence, and anytime you violate the Americans with Disabilities Act, you arbitrarily violate the 14th Amendment as well. Now, I'm going to suggest that our senators get busy and draft this legislation on a federal level using the Americans with Disabilities Act, Title I, in regards to the transportation issues. Second, use the Chronic Pain Patient's Bill of Rights, Section J, which states that a chronic pain patient has the right to use any modality necessary to provide relief of their chronic pain. I'm going to suggest that my primary care physician be the one who writes the prescription, as opposed to going to pay some doctor $100 or whatever just to write medical marijuana when he doesn't even know my medical conditions and knows nothing about me. And then I'm going to suggest that it become available in my pharmacy, because I have a difficult time obtaining my medication, and I believe that that should be essential. Now, as for what I intend to do about it, I'm going to file the Federal Tort Act, the State Tort Act, the County Tort Act, and then the City Tort Act. And since all of you know or should have known that this was a problem, and I don't see any action being taken forthwith, then I get to name each and every one of you as a defendant as well. All of the senators, all the council people, all the people responsible. So in that regard, I thank you for your time. Do you have any questions for me at this time?
No, thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you for your time.
Victoria Zavala.
Good morning, Commissioner, staff, and community. My name is Victoria Zavala. I kind of want to thank her for that. I'm going to piggyback on some things, but not everything. I want to thank Captain Anderson. Thank you. You did a great job. 2010 in Lancaster with safety, public, sheriffs, a lot of people here. I understand that we have been struggling with safe access. But the reality is that what are we really doing actively within our community? Yes, this is a community, Antelope Valley, DA, you know, that is unlike any other community, county, and city out there in LA. We're not Oakland, we're not San Francisco, but we do need safe access. I've been advocating since 2008. I've been a patient since 2007. If you look here in the LA Gem in these magazines, and it's true, she's right. We shouldn't have to go to these other doctors, pay these little fees just to get this, when we actually have doctors here in our community that are already writing these prescriptions, that are already providing. But you guys need to be aware. I had a driver 2 days right before New Year's Eve get pulled over. Everything was fine. Thank you again, because they were well educated. They knew and they understood. But I can't be in this position no more. I'm sick. I have a disease. And unfortunately, my disease isn't part-time. It's full-time. So sometimes you see me here, sometimes you don't. But you see me struggling at Board of Supervisors meetings and all those other meetings. You look on weed maps and you look at those directors and those other facilities. Are they there? Are they advocating? Do they have that disease? She's here saying, wait a minute, we need help. So all I'm asking here today is that, you know, we're seeing big things happening in our country. Look at what happened to that Congresswoman. Why? I'm a woman that went for politics. I wasn't a college-made politician, but because I saw what was happening every day in the homes of our community. You have an open invitation anytime in my home so that you could see and understand the respect that I do have for the community, and that I do have for the medicine, and I do have for the health care, and that people are out there saving our lives. But I don't want to be in a position that one day I'm out there delivering. I'm talking to a member, and yeah, somebody comes in, and it's a home invasion. Why? Because of the area, the person, or the things that are going on in that home or in that area. I had a member. He sells insurance. He was in a home. Not even 15 minutes within being in that home on the east side of Lancaster, it was held up at gunpoint because of other illicit things that are going on in that home. Did he know? You know what petrified him the most? I'll close this and I apologize, is that they used the N-word on him and he was African American and they didn't care. This is a vet. This is a man that suffered from a stroke, had brain surgery. He's a patient now. And he was there on his job, on his time, doing something completely different. And he said and turned around to me and said, Victoria, you can't do this no more like this. You need to get some serious help out there with the community to get you right, to get safe access, and so that we can help with other things that are going on in the community as well. Thank you.
Does that conclude it with comments? Commissioner comments? Any comments this afternoon?
Yeah, I got a comment.
The city commissioners are appointed on a yearly basis, and so as we come up to the end of 2010, now going into 2011, at the next city council meeting, there is going to be appointments or reappointments of commissioners at the pleasure of the city council. So I just want to take the opportunity at the end of this year to say it's just been an honor to serve on this commission for the past year. I've seen and congratulate City of Lancaster, our local law enforcement, for everything you're doing. Quite frankly, my eyes have been open during this past year to see a comprehensive, proactive program to ensure our public safety, certainly including the tough, proactive law enforcement, but also awareness and vigilance programs such as Neighborhood Watch, disaster preparedness such as CERT, promotion and support of community involvement like our Weed and Seed programs, neighborhood impact programs, and quite frankly, this commission itself. We're getting people involved to really protect themselves and be part of the community, and to allow anybody to come up, just like we've had a couple of presenters here, to talk about things that are on their mind, they're passionate about. This is a great place to do that. So just on my behalf to say thank you to the City of Lancaster, local law enforcement for the opportunity to serve this past year.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Other comments? I would just say it's been a pleasure working with you commissioners this past year, and see where it goes from here. So we stand adjourned at 11:15. Thank you.